An update tonight on a quadruple homicide in Butler Township. We now know the man accused of pulling the trigger is facing the death penalty.
The Montgomery County Prosecutor's Office says Stephen Marlowe has been indicted on 3 charges that carry the death penalty specification. Now, we do have team coverage on this tonight. We're also giving you a live look from the Miami Valley Jail's page. And you can see Stephen Marlowe still in the Montgomery County Jail. Let's go to Mamie Bond now, who's been learning more information from officials about the case. Mamie?
Now, Stephen Marlowe is being held here at the Montgomery County Jail on $10 million bond. Heck said the death penalty should be reserved for the most horrific crimes, and this case certainly meets the criteria. Investigators say Stephen Marlowe killed 4 of his neighbors at 2 separate homes unprovoked on August 5th. Those victims were Sarah Anderson and her 15-year-old daughter, Kayla Anderson. Also, Eva Sally Knox and her husband, Clyde Knox. Now, the Montgomery County Prosecutor's Office anticipates Marlowe's defense could claim insanity to negate the death penalty. At this time, do you know if Marlowe has received a psychological examination?
At this time, my understanding, he has not. If those are filed, though, then he would. Then we would go through a battery of examinations and tests.
I did ask Matt Heck how long this will take, and he doesn't know at this time, but he does tell me that if the defense raises mental illness, this case can take a really long time, and the families are aware of that. Back to you.
Mamie, thanks so much. Now, investigators say they still don't have a motive, or at least they aren't releasing it. But Marlowe has been indicted on 12 counts of aggravated murder, among other charges. Clara Faith is live tonight after speaking with legal experts. And Clara, could Marlowe plead insanity?
Legal experts say the defense might plead insanity, but Marlowe will have to undergo several testing to do so. He is not the first person in Montgomery County to face the death penalty. 5 years ago, Claudia Helden was accused of killing her 2 children and later declared not guilty, reason to insanity.
The defendant will be tested for his competency to see if he's competent to stand trial. Because again, when you're talking about competency, that only addresses the defendant's mental state at the time of trial.
So, Clara, did he say how rare it is to get a death penalty conviction?
According to Hagel, it is very difficult for prosecutors to convince the jury to sentence someone to death. It takes a long road of preparation. Reporting live in Montgomery County, Clara Faith, Dayton 24/7 Now News.
Clara, thanks. New information tonight about a search warrant executed on the Montgomery County Clerk of Court's office yesterday. According to the report from the state auditor's office, 2 people came forward with concerns regarding Clerk Mike Foley. Now, these concerns include efforts to solicit campaign contributions from employees and paying bonuses to employees based on whether or not they made a contribution. Last night, we spoke with Foley's attorney, who tells us that he has, quote, nothing to hide. Now, we'll continue to follow that story, and as we learn any new information, we'll update you on air and online at Dayton247now.com.
Tonight, election results are still being counted in Arizona and Nevada. That means some key positions in the House and Senate remain up for grabs. In Nevada, Republican Adam Laxalt is leading Democratic Senator Catherine Cortez Masto by just over 15,000 votes. State law allows for mail-in ballots to be received all the way through Saturday as long as they were postmarked by Tuesday. That means counties are still receiving ballots that need to be counted. In Clark County, Nevada's largest county, which includes Las Vegas, 12,000 ballots were received just yesterday. And that's the same case in Arizona as currently the incumbent Democratic Senator Mark Kelly maintains a lead right now over Republican Blake Masters. At the moment, Kelly has a 100,000 vote lead over his opponent. Now, in other Arizona races, Democrats are still leading, but with much smaller margins in races for the governor, secretary of state, and also attorney general. As of today, the state's largest county there, Maricopa, reported that there are still 400,000 votes left to count. That includes a massive number of mail-in ballots dropped off in person on Election Day. We're told they take much longer to count because signatures have to be matched with state records.
Under Arizona law, they can come and just drop it off. They don't want to wait in the line. Just drop it off and head on their day. So when you combine both of that, it was a very busy day. And that 290,000 mail-in ballots that were dropped off on Election Day, it was a record and broke the previous record by 70%.
There are also 17,000 outstanding ballots that had to be set aside due to a printing problem on Tuesday. Officials say all of those votes will be counted, but they didn't provide a timeline.
Live look tonight over the radar for Tropical Depression Nicole that's hitting the Florida coast with heavy rains and strong winds tonight. Now, Nicole made landfall in the state as a Category 1 hurricane Early this morning, it has since downgraded. And take a look at this video here. This was taken from a dorm room in St. Augustine, Florida. You can see the streets flooded with high water after that storm hit the area. Students stranded in their building until that water level lowers.
Now, Volusia County along the coast appears to have the worst damage so far. The coastline was already damaged by Hurricane Ian, leaving it vulnerable to Nicole. Officials say several beachside homes have just collapsed, some dropping right into the Atlantic Ocean, many others still at risk tonight.
This is obviously not as significant a storm as Hurricane Ian was, but coming on the heels of that, you're seeing communities, particularly in the Volusia County area, where you had a lot of that erosion on the coastline. This has put some of those structures in jeopardy.
The storm is being blamed for at least 2 deaths in Central Florida. Officials say that they were electrocuted by a downed power line in Orange County.
All right, thankfully none of that here, but we do have a lot of rain in the forecast starting, in the early morning hours tomorrow or in the afternoon?
Yeah, into the morning, into the afternoon. Just keep that umbrella handy. Yeah, almost an all-day type of event for us. Satellite and radar showing cloud cover building in. Now, this is from Nicole at this time. Started out with some high cirrus clouds. We are starting to see some lower clouds begin to build into the area as well, and then eventually we will see the rain. So 2 systems we're talking about. We have Nicole as well as a very strong cold front just off to our west that will be bringing us that much colder air into the area. For right now, we're in the 50s, 55 in Dayton, but bigger picture here. Notice just off to our northwest, you can clearly see where that cold front's located. It's just 12 in Rapid City right now. We're going to see some Arctic air begin to build its way in, dropping our temperatures. But for tonight, enjoy the milder conditions. We'll get into the mid-50s. Clouds continue to increase. Rain by the morning hours, so plan on some rain for that morning commute.
Natalie, thanks. An Ohio woman in this now viral video of an altercation at the University of Kentucky is now permanently banned from the campus. The university's president says Sophia Rosing is not allowed to re-enroll as a student. Now, in the video, she can be heard calling the other student in the video the N-word repeatedly. That student also told police she was bit and punched. She now faces several charges, including disorderly conduct and public intoxication.
Allies of former President Trump are telling him to delay his rumored announcement of a 2024 bid for the White House after a disappointing election night. When he visited Ohio on Monday, Trump hinted at a big announcement next week, likely expecting to launch his campaign in a victory lap after a red wave in the midterm. But advisors say the party's full focus still needs to be on Georgia's runoff vote, which could determine control of the Senate. Many of Trump's endorsed candidates actually underperformed, raising questions about his influence over the GOP. Still, some expect that he's going to throw his hat into the ring no matter what.
He's got to make some decisions now. My guess is he's still going to jump in because he wants to take the wind out of the sails of some other people who might jump in and start, or continue, I should say, raising a lot of money for his presidential campaign. But he's not in the best possible position. He wasn't expecting this at all.
Trump has publicly praised the results of the midterm, saying from his standpoint, it was a very big victory.
Tonight, some in the Republican Party are saying it's time to move on from Trump. That includes Mike Lawler, who unseated the chairman of the Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee, New York Congressman Sean Maloney, in the midterms. However, he knows that the decision for the next president is ultimately up to those who go out and vote.
You want to see the party move forward from Trump?
Yeah, I think moving in a different direction as we move forward is a good thing, not a bad thing. But ultimately, look, the voters will decide what they want to do, and the former president will decide what he wants to do.
The comments carry weight coming from a new Republican face in Washington. Lawler won a big race and his campaign was mostly fueled by the national Republican funding. He also rejects claims of election fraud in 2020. Other lawmakers have questioned Trump's influence over the party after many of his midterm picks lost their races. A federal judge also putting sanctions on some of the former president's lawyers. Lydia Bice here now at the Now Desk. What are they being accused of exactly?
Well, they're facing charges for filing a lawsuit in which they knew or should have known made false claims. The lawyers were suing Hillary Clinton, the Democratic National Committee, and about 24 others, alleging they conspired to undermine the 2016 presidential election.
So what charges exactly could they be facing out of this then?
Well, the judge tossed the suit weeks ago, and on Thursday he ordered the Trump lawyers to pay $50,000 to the court and another $16,000 to one of the defendants in the case. Judge Donald Middlebrooks told the lawyers that the case they brought contained allegations that were either knowingly false or showed total disregard for the truth. Trump has appealed the dismissal of the lawsuit.
Lydia, thanks. The president celebrating the election turnout, who he's crediting for its success.
Also, the House Minority Leader, Kevin McCarthy, continues to say he will become Speaker of the House if the GOP wins. Why some are saying not so fast.
Plus, I'm tracking that rain as well as much colder air on the way that's coming up. Here's a live look from our Kettering Hill Skycam. You're watching Dayton 24/7 now.
The White House just announcing a new military aid package for Ukraine. That package includes air defense contributions such as missiles and U.S. Avenger air defense systems that come with Stinger missiles as well. Now, White House National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan says he spoke with Ukrainian President Zelensky and his team while in Ukraine last week. Sullivan says that they discussed what Ukraine needs in order to be in its strongest possible position on the battlefield.
This increased air defense will be critical for Ukraine as Russia continues to use cruise missiles and Iranian-made drones to attack critical civilian infrastructure.
Now, Sullivan says that the package will complement other air defense contributions announced by our allies and partners. This comes as Russian troops began pulling out of the key Ukrainian city of Kherson. Experts say that the withdrawal could allow Ukraine to win back territory in the south that it had previously lost.
President Biden is going to meet with the Chinese leader Xi Jinping at the G20 summit in Indonesia on Monday. It'll be the first in-person meeting between the leaders since Biden became president. Now, the White House says the leaders will discuss efforts to maintain and deepen the lines of communication between those two countries. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan downplaying the expectations.
I don't think you should look at this meeting as one in which there's going to be specific deliverables announced. Rather, the two leaders are going to give direction to their teams to work on a number of areas, both areas where we have differences and areas where we can work together.
U.S. and China relations have been strained recently over issues like Taiwan and human rights concerns in China.
Well, big changes in our forecast. First will come from Nicole, which is now a tropical depression. Winds of 35 miles per hour. Has a northwesterly track right now. Will be taking a northeasterly turn and going to be bringing us some impacts right here in the Miami Valley. Right now, mainly just cloud cover building in, but eventually we will see that rain by early tomorrow morning. So moving through time, this is about 8 a.m. Morning commute time. Plan on rain, heavier pockets here and there, especially for our southeastern counties. We'll be hanging out in the 50s. Continuing into the lunchtime hour, but it does look like most of this will be heading out by about 4 or 5 p.m. and then we'll start to see that clearing. Once we get that colder air to settle in, we drop into the 30s by our early Saturday morning, and then we do have the potential for some snow showers Saturday afternoon. Now, this does indicate maybe some heavier areas of snowfall, so we'll monitor that very closely. Temperature-wise, we'll be above freezing. The ground is very warm, so don't expect significant impacts from this, but we'll be watching that very closely. And then we still have the potential for some flurries into our Saturday, too. I'm going to talk about how much rain we're expecting coming up.
Natalie thanks the president and vice president, thanking Democratic staffers and volunteers for their hard work this election cycle.
Voters across our country knew what they stood for, so they knew what to fight for. They protected and they protected and they protected reproductive rights.
President Biden noting results are still coming in, but called it a good day for democracy and a strong night for Democrats. He said they beat the odds, showing up in great numbers to send a message, especially when it comes to women's rights.
Well, guess what? Y'all showed up and beat the hell out of them. Look, I said it then. Those who support ripping away the rights to choose don't have a clue about the power of women in America, but now I think they do.
President vowing to veto any attempts by Republicans in Congress to repeal measures he's put in place, like climate commitments and Medicare's power to negotiate prices. He also reaffirmed his commitment to not raise taxes on anyone making less than $400,000 a year. Now, if Republicans do win back the House, the margin of victory will likely be smaller than many in the GOP were expecting. That might impact whether or not the party picks House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy as the new Congress Speaker. Now, a smaller margin could give the House Freedom Caucus the ability to get major concessions out of McCarthy. Before Election Day, McCarthy said he was not worried.
If we win the majority, I'll run for Speaker.
But do you think you will have the votes for Speaker?
I believe I'll have the votes for Speaker, yes.
Do you think Trump will support you become Speaker?
I think Trump would be very supportive, yes.
Do you feel like you need his support?
I think the people who vote for it are all in the conference. So, I think that's the most important vote.
Now, if he refuses to bow to the hardliners in the party, they could have enough votes to block his speakership. Others in the party could also rise up to challenge him.
All right, a live look from our Kettering Health Sky Cam right now. I think it feels cold. Natalie and I are having a discussion right now. You're on the exclusive Watson's Weather Patio. I think I'm bracing myself for what's happening tomorrow, because she told me that it's not really any colder tonight than it was last night, but tomorrow.
Yeah, that's when we start to see the changes.
I'm just psyching myself up mentally.
You're like, you're prepping yourself. This is how I'm going to feel.
I'm miserable now. Tomorrow is going to be horrendous.
Right. Well, we got rain first and then the colder air that slides in. So just some big changes overall. But the good thing is that we have the rain. We need the rain. We are more than 4 inches below normal for the season since September 1st. And then as far as for the month, we are over an inch below normal already, and we're talking about some rain on the way. So how much are we expecting? It does look like the heaviest totals are going to be for our southeastern counties, where those places could see maybe over 1/2 inch to up to an inch of rainfall. Lesser totals will be off to the northwest, but the bigger story once we get through the rain is going to be the cold. I'll have a look at our 7-day coming up.
Local restaurant owners, farmers, and nonprofits coming together for the Montgomery County Food Summit. They're all trying to help those struggling with those high prices. Also, Twitter employees receiving an email from new owner Elon Musk, who says there's a good chance the app won't survive. You're watching Dayton 24/7 now.
It's no secret food prices are sky high right now. Inflation and the pandemic have all taken their toll. That's why today local restaurant owners, nonprofits and farmers all came together at the Montgomery County Food Summit to find ways to bring those prices down and survive in this new environment.
Let's face it, we still have food insecurity here. We have probably close to 70,000 some families that are still food insecure, which means they don't know where their next meal is coming from. And 26,000 of those are children. Oh, come on. This is the United States. This should not happen.
Commissioner Dodge says food insecurity is top of mind for many of these leaders. More than 300 people attended today's event.
Governor Mike DeWine and the Ohio Department of Job and Family Services announcing a new service for vets and military spouses. On the Ohio Means Jobs website, veterans and their spouses can receive one-on-one assistance with their employment searches. Now, Ohio is home to the 5th largest veteran population in the nation, and DeWine says it's a small way to say thank you. The service allows a more individualized job search for a job that is fit for their lifestyle. In Ohio, all veterans are given priority in referrals to job openings and other services. And with Veterans Day tomorrow, we have compiled a full list of all the Veterans Day ceremonies and celebrations for the Miami Valley. We have made a list of restaurants, businesses providing free meals and discounts tomorrow. Both lists can be found on our website, Dayton247now.com. A story now from our partners at the Dayton Business Journal tonight. The former Masonic Temple building in Washington Township could soon be repurposed. Documents show All the Best Dayton Deli, a New York-style deli, is seeking a final approval to repurpose the 8,500 square foot building. The Masonic Temple is located along Far Hills Avenue. Now, while it's not expected to see major upgrades, documents show it'll see minor improvements like a storefront entrance, entry ramp, and new windows for the restaurant's main floor. And we have all the information at Dayton247now.com. You can find this story and others like it. Just look under the Dayton Business Journal heading in the News tab.
Elon Musk is now saying that Twitter, his newly purchased company, could eventually collapse. That's if they can't find a way to make it more profitable. In an email to employees today, Musk described the economic forces working against the social media platform. He says that his priority now is going to be to launch a new subscription service to make the company more profitable. He says he's also working to suspend bots and trolls exploiting verified accounts, but there are now fewer employees to do that. Twitter laid off 7,500 people last week, about 50% of its entire workforce.
Coming up, we'll show you more from the opening day of the high school volleyball state tournament, how 3 area teams who were in the running fared in their matches.
You're watching Dayton 24/7 now.
the Dayton 24/7 Now News app, brought to you by the Jeff Schmidt Auto Group.
As the high school fall sports season winds down, that means state championships are up for grabs. One sport will crown champions this weekend at Wright State's Nutter Center. Matt Digby has a look at day one of the high school volleyball state tournament.
3 area teams playing their semifinals on Thursday. In Division 4, New Bremen out to a very hot start, winning the first game against Convoy Crestview 25-8. They would also take Game 2, but it was a closer margin, 25-20. Then in Game 3, the Lady Knights keep that momentum going, taking Game 3 25-23. But in Game 4, the Cardinals grabbing the momentum back, winning 25-10, and the match 3-1. They advance to Saturday's championship match against Monroeville.
Our community came out in full force today. It was a Thursday at 2 o'clock. People had to take off work. People had to use personal days. Most of those people don't have a daughter or a granddaughter playing. They're here because of the words across the front of our chest, New Bremen, and it means something to us. It means something to our town.
In Division 3, Versailles facing Mentor Lake Catholic. The Tigers took a very close opening game, 25-23, but Lake Catholic took the momentum in Game 2 and held on to it for the remainder of the match. Versailles did have some moments to look back on positively, but the Cougars advancing to championship Saturday 3-1. The Tigers finished the year 22-7.
Kudos to our senior leadership. These 3 right here with me right now are seniors. But I think, we started the season winning the spike off, and it was kind of that, hey, we're going to do this. We can do this. And so we had, we always talk about we had our peaks and we had our valleys. But what is cool about these guys is they had each other's back at all times. And so even in practice, you saw the extra high fives, you saw the momentum plays, you saw the belief in each other shine, and I thought that, it took us very far on this tournament run.
The second Division 3 semifinal featuring Coldwater taking on Byesville Meadowbrook. The Cavaliers jumping out to a 1-game lead after taking the opener 25-17. Meadowbrook would respond by winning the second game, but a major momentum shift after that. Coldwater going back up by a game and then continuing that momentum to win 3-1. They will face Lake Catholic on Saturday afternoon.
Especially having the experience of regionals, we went into 4 sets. We knew that coming out of the second set, we just had to take care of business from point 1, and we really rallied behind each other and just pushed each other that extra mile to get that win on the 3rd set. I think we always get into practice and grit it out every day, and we do have a little bit of a smaller team this year, so that just made it that much more special for all of us to have that really close bond with each other.